That's beetle nut. That's
Oh. All right, that was just a thing. And then you've also got something here about Mama San and a tiger.
yeah. I don't even remember which base that was. Mama San. Well, we talk about a housing shortage here. You know, a big house, maybe 8 foot square for the mountain yards, and they built them on stilts, and then you have a ladder you put down, and 8 by 8 probably was a multi-generational domicile, and one of Mama San's duties would be to bring in the ladder at night, and for whatever reason Mama San didn't bring in the ladder, and in the middle of the night a tiger walked up the ladder and bit Mama San in the arm and actually bit the arm off. She took the arm out of the tiger's mouth and pulled it away, beat the tiger off, pulled the ladder in. Next morning, walked 7 miles into a mountain yard village,
Wow.
or into Special Forces camp from her village. They had me medevac her to 71st Evac Hospital. A couple days later, they asked me to pick her up and bring her back out to the mountain yard village, and I did. She walked then back out to her village and sat there for most of the day. Nobody talked to her. They thought she was an evil spirit. If you get a scratch in the jungle, like from a rose bush, in an hour it'll be a pus track. And I asked the doctor at 71st Evac Hospital, I said, how come she didn't just flat bleed to death?
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he says, you would. I would. He says, they don't have any fat. He says, her muscles all contracted and then acted like a tourniquet. And they had to debride it and whatever and put it. She walked, it was every other day or every third day, 7 miles back to the Special Forces camp to have her dressing changed and looked at.
Wow.
And walked back to her village. But that you talk about differences, and you know, people today are complaining about Obamacare and health care. You see them parading it's a right and stuff. And I do genealogy, and I can tell you that my parents started getting health care because of the unions. And prior to that, nobody had insurance. Doctors did house calls. They did house calls when I was a kid. We have no concept how well we lived, how well things are. I was sitting in a master's class, economics, and the gentleman sitting next to me was a retired colonel, Army engineer. And somebody said something about poor in this country. And he and I said, we don't have any poor in this country. 2/3 of the class was black and 2/3 of the class was female. And the class went ballistic. And the prof came back to the two of us and says, two of you want to explain? I says, yeah, our poor has transportation. Our poor has housing with electricity. Some of them have air conditioning. Almost all of them have TVs. They have indoor plumbing. They have, you know, they may not have insurance. They can go to any emergency room and get health care. I says, they live better than the top 10% do in any third world country I've ever been in. We have relative poor. They're poor relative to the rest of us. I'll give you that. But poor? No.
Okay. Now,